7 more Vatican Swiss Guards have tested positive for the coronavirus. On Monday, the Holy See confirmed 4 members had been diagnosed with COVID-19. The Swiss Guards are in charge of protecting the Pope. Joining us now is EWTN News Rome correspondent Colm Flynn. Colm, thanks so much for joining us. What more can you tell us about this story?
Good evening, Tracy. On Monday, it was announced that 4 members of the Pontifical Swiss Guard had contracted COVID-19. Now that number is up to 11. In a statement released yesterday, it said that the isolation of positive cases had been arranged immediately and appropriate further steps have been taken. Now, we reached out to the Swiss Guard looking for a statement on the well-being and health of these individuals, but are still waiting a response. And you may remember a number of weeks ago, we showed you those images on the show of 38 new members of the Swiss Guard being sworn in at a special event here in the Vatican behind me. And at that event, the Pope was in attendance. Now, the Swiss Guard were not wearing masks and the Pontiff was not wearing a face mask either. They did keep their distance, though. It's important to point out as well, that event did happen before Vatican City State, which is its own independent state within Italy, introduced new rules making the wearing of face masks mandatory at all times, indoors and outdoors within the walls of Vatican City State.
Colm, earlier this week you reported the positive cases in Italy were rising very quickly. What's the current situation at the moment?
Yeah, Tracy, that's right. We brought you this news earlier in the week that on Tuesday these new rules took effect nationwide, and some of them included rules like now restaurants and bars must close at midnight. They must stop serving food and beverages outdoor at 9 p.m. All non-contact sports, including football, is prohibited for the next 30 days. And baptisms, marriages, events church-related are limited to 30 people. But yesterday it was announced that the number of new positive cases of COVID-19 across Italy has now reached 8,804. That's just in the space of 24 hours, and that number is significant because it is an all-time new high. Now think back to March when this pandemic was at its height here in Italy. The peak number in one day then was 6,557, so the number has jumped dramatically. But you have to remember this as well, that they are carrying out more coronavirus tests than ever before since the beginning of this pandemic. The Higher Health Institute and the Ministry for Health here in Italy have said that the pandemic has reached an acute stage as it goes into its 10th consecutive week of rising numbers.
Well, Colm, definitely something we will be keeping our eye on. I want to get to some other Vatican news. The Apostolic Nuncio to Syria met with diplomats. What did they discuss?
Yes, Tracy, this is staying with coronavirus news as well, I suppose, albeit in a different regime and the devastating effects that it is happening. The Apostolic Nuncio to Syria, Cardinal Mario Zenari, he met with diplomats in the Vatican where he urged them to do all that they can to help the plight of people in Syria. He said that 11 million Syrians are now in need of immediate humanitarian assistance. He said after 10 years of war that the people of Syria have been hit with a poverty bomb as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. He went on to say that he feels that Syria is off the media radar now, and he urged these diplomats to use everything in their power to put the spotlight back on the suffering of the Syrian people and to do everything that they could to direct humanitarian aid towards the country. Now, according to the United Nations, they say that Syria, which has a population of 17.5 million people, is facing an unprecedented hunger crisis.
Colm Flynn, EWTN News Rome correspondent. Thank you so much, Colm.
Thank you, Tracy.